Hi, everyone. This is Sebastian Traeger, Managing Director of Reliability Center, and welcome back to another episode of Reliability 4.0. As always, we're on a mission to make the world a more reliable place. And today we are joined by Casey Pritt of Smurfit WestRock. Casey, it is great to have you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you. So I always like to start. Let's just start with the basics. Tell us a little bit about your company, Smurfit WestRock, and then your role within the company.
So, Smurfit WestRock is a paper mill out of West Point, Virginia. There are multiple locations. We are a pretty large facility, paper mill wise. We have 3 paper machines, 4 boilers, and a fifth baby package boiler. So, 2 kilns. We're not small. I'm currently a maintenance planner for them. That's what I was hired on. I started in December 2024, and it's
Great.
been a wild ride. But I've been planning for 14 years, so thankfully I bring that knowledge with me.
Great. Well, I want to talk for a second. I don't think folks realize when you say we have a couple of paper mills, like just to kind of give people a sense of scale as to how large one of those machines is, or assembly lines.
So, ooh, if you were to look at a football field, I would say a paper machine takes up at least to at least 3/4 of that lengthwise.
So one machine is effectively like 80 yards long.
I would beg to say that it's about that long,
It's amazing.
and it's
Well, that's
really hot.
I got a privilege of visiting one of your all's plants in Covington, West Virginia,
Yeah.
and it was unbelievable, just the systems and the setup. So I'm just always so impressed with the work folks do. Now, you said it's been a wild ride. What has been so wild about the ride?
So this is my first paper mill experience. And it's probably the largest industry I've been in, machine size wise. And it's my first experience with having planned outages, whereas I'm used to having more mini outages throughout a year. And the build up to the big outage, it's like this huge event. I feel like I was with a wedding planner and you're just
Huh.
making this incredible huge wedding for it to happen. And we kind of limped into outage a little bit because we switched from 12 months to 18 months, and that does have strain on the older machinery for sure. And we've kind of been trying to get out of outage mode, but we keep having a couple little snags happen here and there that have just really kept us in it, unfortunately. We're still up and running, so we're not in outage, but the mindset's still there and we're trying to get
Okay.
out of that right now. August, we start planning for the next one.
Well, okay. So just for context, so every 18 months now you do an outage, and
Mhm.
how long do those last?
Our last one was about 4 weeks long. I think they estimate about 3 at first, but there's still that fourth week for up and going. And I planned mentally for myself about 3 weeks to get up and going because you can't just turn everything on. You have to slowly ramp it up, warm it up, and there's a certain sequence and everything's interconnected in different ways.
And what is happening during a 3 or 4 week outage?
So the first couple days you have operations. They're running around doing lockout, tag out for as much as they can, and it has to go in a certain sequence. And you're starting to cool off boilers and burn off steam, and you have to make sure your liquor levels are all where they need to be and your bark levels are where they need to be for coming back up. And then we bring in the cleaners. That takes probably the longest amount of time. We
Huh.
have special hydroblasting machines. They come through, they clean everything. Probably the worst of it is the black liquor because it's so sticky and it's
Huh.
tarry. It's really hard to get off. Um, After that, we get a period of about 5 to 8 days to actually perform maintenance.
Okay. So that happens after the cleaning. So the
That
cleaning
happens
is
after the
step one. Okay.
cleaning.
So cool it
Yeah.
down, clean it up, then you actually do some maintenance on it.
Then we get to do the maintenance. And then operations is trying to get it from us as quickly as they can so they can start unlocking it and getting it ready to warm up because everything has at least a 24 to 48 hour warm up period.
Wow, what an operation. So you need to make sure that when that cleaning process is done, everyone knows exactly what they're doing because you
Yeah.
have a pretty limited window to kind of do it all. You have to have all the
Yeah.
parts, whatever you need, ready to go.
Exactly. So normally, manpower wise, our facility hires, I think it's like 550 some odd employees, and we brought in 1,500 additional contractors for outage.
That is
Yes.
incredible. We talk to people in many different industries, so I always like to learn more about the industry that we're dealing with, because obviously when you hear the word shutdown, you intuitively think fewer people because nothing's happening. But in fact, you're saying it's 4 times the number of people across the organization are really engaged.
Yeah, it's hard to get around. It's hard to move. We have because with that short amount of time, you don't have long, and you got to throw people at it. And then you have capital projects going on along with that, which makes it even worse.
Okay. Yeah, it is. It is a little bit kind of like you said, a wedding, right? Or a Super Bowl or
Yeah.
some mass scale event
Yeah.
where it all kind of happens and then gets back. What kind of could go wrong in that? What when you guys think of risk, what are the things that are, push that timeline back or yeah, just any kind of risks that might happen?
For example, cleaning might go longer because of the 18 months. Our evaporators, they were a little bit worse off when it came to how dirty they were, and it took a little bit longer to clean, which delayed us being able to get there to do the maintenance. So that was one of the things. There's some things like tanks that we can't look at and fully scope out to know what's going to be wrong with it before we enter it until it's drained and cleaned. And then we're like, oh, this might be a little bit bigger than what we anticipated, or it might be a smaller scale.
Well, great. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. I know that you spoke at the IMC conference this past year.
Mhm.
Why don't you share with folks what it is you spoke about? Kind of outline from that talk was.
So I spoke about the different generations of people in maintenance and how those different generations have driven the different generations of maintenance like theories and
Huh.
responsibilities. Because
And so just to pause for a second, when you say generations, you literally mean like age groups almost, like age group cohorts? Okay.
yep, so your boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Zs, um, and they've kind of line up with the different maintenance strategies throughout the years from reactive to predictive and all that. And it really came about from sitting in a room full of a bunch of old fogies and they're talking about it's not like how it used to be, and they're reminiscing about the good old days and how it's
Right.
different from now.
Uh-huh.
But if you sit in a room of millennials or Gen Z, it's a completely different story. It's they're making us be faster, they're making it this way or that way. And I was like, there's a really like dynamic here. And I tried so hard to research that dynamic to figure out what is it that's making it so polar opposite.
Right. This is fascinating. So what I'm so curious what you found.
So I found a lot of it came from our how we were brought up sociologically. So, for example, your boomers and the silent generation, the one right before them, they were brought up in this kind of culture where it's not just you, it's you're looking out for your neighbor or just some random person at the grocery store. You're not looking out for just you. So it
Okay.
created this kind of camaraderie that we necessarily don't have right now. I
Hmm.
know right now it's I'm looking out for me at the moment.
Okay.
Um, Additionally, there with the patriotism, it brought pride because we had WW1, WW2, and there was so much patriotism and just naturally because they had loved ones who were gone natural, like totally understand it. And that
Right.
pride and country shifted over into the work that they were doing, and they had pride in their work. And I'm not saying we don't have pride now. It's just it's a little different. It's
Right.
not quite as strong as what it used to be. And you start getting into the technological advancements. Well, baby boomers didn't grow up with technology, whereas millennials and Gen Z, they have. And so you have the difference of delayed gratification versus instant gratification, and society is switching to that instant gratification. So we
Hmm.
don't get to take our time on things anymore. It's we need it right now type thing. And it's just different ways that we're thinking about things even at home that are changing that strategies that we use at work.
I mean, I know that the goal wasn't to sort of assign better, worse, but maybe when you think of like pros, cons, maybe just pick how would you see kind of pros, cons of maybe the boomers versus the current generation in terms of I assume one thing that the new generations bring are technology skills to bear. But yeah, I'm just curious, like what you think is like the strength, weaknesses of the different time periods, philosophies, etc.
That's hard because there are definitely pros and cons to both. I will preface this with I I don't think there's a solution. And I think it's going to be a mixture of both. I don't think it's any one generation over the other. With the older generations who didn't have the technology, they really honed in on learning about the machines that they were working on to the point the machine was almost like an animal and they knew how it would react. And if they did this, it would do that. And they really dove into that.
Okay.
Whereas you bring in now, you have the technology and the millennials and Gen Z, they're like, oh, well, how can I put this on a computer so I don't have to go here and do that? The computer
Right.
does it for me. And there's nothing wrong with that by any means. It's just a different way of looking at said animal. And if we could kind of bring those together and mesh it a little bit, I think it could create something really good.
That's fascinating. I've probably told this story before on my podcast, but my grandfather when I was young, I'd play him in tennis, and he had like an old wooden racket, and I had this like super advanced graphite racket. So I was like, think technology. He was kind of like old school, but he was like a wizard with that thing. And so like even though I was in better shape and like theoretically had better equipment, he would just crush me because he just like understood the game and how to play it. So even as you talk about a previous generation really understood that equipment, understood that animal, if you will, that's a huge advantage, right? Even if they don't necessarily have technology, that's a massive benefit.
Yes, wholeheartedly. And unfortunately, we're starting to get to the point where baby boomers are retiring. It's time for them to go enjoy themselves, and we're losing that knowledge and trying to capture it. It's proven to be hard, and I heard a lot of companies are having some of the same issues. There's a mass amount of people retiring, but we have a mass amount of young people coming in, but they don't know the machinery in the same way that we've had it. And so we lose that reliability
Right.
aspect.
Did you, I mean, I know this is probably a little too difficult for the project you had, but did you happen to try to connect results to the different groups? Like, so, right, because one could argue knowing the equipment really well is better. But then I might argue, well, no, having it all digital and being able to have sensors on it, and you don't have to know the machine because you know the readings and the triggers and all that. Did you happen to get into, from a performance perspective, which approach is better?
We kind of do it on a daily basis because with our reliability group, they do vibration testing analysis on a regular basis. And we do get the disconnect of we'll have our mechanics who've been here for years, they go and physically work on it. They're like, well, this is wrong. And then we have our vibration guys who will go to it. They're like, well, my sensor says this is wrong. And it collides.
Interesting.
And oftentimes we'll find sometimes that the vibration, or at least what the analyst said, isn't quite right because we'll fix something small on here and it fixes it. But then other times we'll find, yeah, they were right. We were wrong. So it flip flops. I don't think there's really much of a score to keep at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it's basically you're saying they complement each other well.
Yeah.
And so the real question becomes when there is already a departure of kind of these boomers and their
Mhm.
knowledge. So I guess the question becomes what happens when they all leave to the kind of technology sensor only kind of approach.
That's a scary thought. Because I feel like because they complement so well, we still need both. And at least here, we try to keep both. We still have our mechanics who are very hands-on with the machinery, and with the boomers leaving, I feel bad for saying boomers, but with people retiring
Right.
who had that knowledge of the historical knowledge of that machine, we now have to sit there and figure out crap. Well, what did they do 10 years ago when this happened? Because sometimes it's just a weird, wonky thing that occurs. And sometimes it's a very simple approach, and other times it's a very complicated approach. And sometimes you got to remove a piece of equipment and replace it, and removing it can be really hard when the plant has grown up around it.
So you're almost saying that, hey, sometimes the solution is we don't have anyone who knows how to use this anymore, therefore we better replace it because we can't have like a legacy piece of machinery if like no one can service it anymore.
We do have machinery that are like that are becoming obsolete and we can't get parts for, so we are trying to transition those out, as well as pieces of machinery that we have to replace just because it's worn out, it's rusted through, it's corroded, and trying to get it out and put a new one in it's dance.
Fascinating. Okay. Well,
I have a job I'm planning right now just like
right. That is I think the topic, I'm really glad you spoke on that. And I think you could probably give that talk more often. I feel like you're kind of, that insight you had is, I think, something that will shape this industry for the next 10 years, right? As this transition happens. And I will say, like, just even that question you asked is probably the next step of it. It's like, what happened in previous transitions? How did we handle this? So that is really fascinating.
It's definitely a topic that continues to develop. I don't think it's a topic that will ever stop.
I'm curious, the comments in the room when you gave this talk, were people, on both sides kind of asking a question or providing some feedback?
It was a full house. And I saw a lot of head nods. People were very they're like, yeah, we're experiencing this. And I had a couple of individuals that spoke up. They're like, yeah, this is what we're seeing. And throughout the conference, people would come up, and come to find out there's some people who are trying to circumvent losing the knowledge, especially through AI. I think I don't remember the company's name, but they're using an AI tool that they just sit the phone down and let the mechanic talk and explain how he does something. And all of a sudden that AI tool makes it into a work procedure.
That's
based off the old school knowledge.
That is a very interesting idea. Kind of record everybody's knowledge before they leave.
Yeah.
Well, good. I do, Casey, I always like to ask folks, it's been great talking to you about this. I feel like we could go on for a long time. But just kind of one of the last questions I always like to ask folks is, you mentioned you've been growing in your career, doing various things. If you were to rewind and go back to the beginning, what advice would you kind of give your beginning self that you wish you knew now about the field, about the industry, just to encourage others who might be at an earlier stage of the journey?
That is a good question. I would say don't be scared. Just do it. The one great thing with the maintenance realm is so much of it is hands-on and time-based that you're not going to know everything right out the get-go. But if you have the basics, such as like organization, attention to detail, etc., like that, you could do something really good with it as long as you have the tenacity and willingness to learn and spend the time with it.
It's a good word. That is a great final word. I like that. So that is, I think it's always great just to hear folks reflect on a career that they've had and just kind of pause and say, okay, well, what would I tell somebody who's just starting out? So it's good to hear that good word. Well, Casey, it's been great talking to you. I think, I don't know, just to help folks, do you have your talk online somewhere if they want to dig deeper and hear the entire presentation?
I think the conference posted it.
Okay.
If not, I have had people reach out to me. The PowerPoint doesn't really do much unless if you have the talk behind it, because I don't like to do death by PowerPoint. Right. But I did do a write-up of it, and if anybody ever wants it, I'm more than happy to email that out. Yep. Okay.
Good stuff. Well, thanks so much for being on the show, Casey. It's been great to have you. Again, this is Casey Pritt of Smurfit WestRock. And if you are interested in understanding how different generations of maintenance and reliability folks, because of the teaching and training they've had over the years, because of the tools and technology, how they actually approach the job differently, I think this would be an amazing talk to dive deeper into. So want to commend that to you. And to everybody listening to this podcast, really anyone, again, our goal is to help engineers just take steps to be more successful in what they do, to use technology, to use tools that are out there, but also to use the knowledge that they've built. Of course, if you're looking for anything related to RCA, whether training or resources and materials, check out reliability.com. And if you want to dig deeper by using software, check out our tool, Easy RCA. Well, that's all the time we have today. Thanks again, Casey, for being a part of this.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And let's all go forth and make the world a more reliable place. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.